Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations. I'm Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Rain Whalen. We got it right that time. I don't know if you watched last week's video, but the mistake that Future Rain left in is when I exported the video, I could have sworn I told it to have it this way, where we're in the right spots, but somehow it was flipped. And I was like, son of a bitch, I'm gonna have to redo it. But I was like, no. Well, but then I was like, no. It's like, I'm gonna leave it alone. And then I put our names in the correct spots, but the video is flipped. Yeah, so there you go.
I did notice that it was flipped the other way.
Okay, good. Tell me you're proud of me.
I'm proud of you. Oh my god.
Oh man.
Yeah, man.
Welcome back, everyone.
So you have some exciting news about a movie you saw this weekend.
I cannot talk about this movie enough, even though there's very few people I can talk about it with. And that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Ashley and I went and saw it on Friday. And it's a blast, man. I mean, now, like I said, I haven't been able to talk to a lot of people about it because a lot of people haven't seen it. Like yourself, I want to talk to you so badly about it, but you fucking haven't seen it yet.
That's how I feel about Beau is Afraid, bro. I want to talk to everyone about Beau is Afraid. No one's saying it, so.
Well, I would have talked to you about it, but it didn't come here for more than like a day, and I missed my window.
Damn it.
But yeah, man, Guardians was awesome. I have been warning everyone, so if you're listening, Zach, it is emotionally exhausting. It's a great movie. It's phenomenal. James Gunn definitely went out with a high note on Marvel, which is, I mean, what you want, before he now pivots all his time and energy to DC. But it's great. Ashley and I both agree it's the best in the series, in the trilogy of the Guardians movies. We agree that it's 3, 1, 2.
Really?
But it's that good, man. It caps off every single story thread that James started with the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't make a lot of references to Infinity War and Endgame because he didn't really have a hand in writing his characters in those movies, which I find kind of interesting. But it's great, man. It's phenomenal. I cried the whole movie, and I'm not ashamed, and that's not an exaggeration. I cried the whole movie. And it has inspired me, as we were talking about off mic, to get a Rocket the Raccoon tattoo, which I may get when Ashley and I go to Austin in July to see Blink-182. I've already scheduled the time with my artist to start filling in my arm, but I might be like, hey, before you focus on this, can you just quickly just kind of put something right here? Well, people watching us can see where I'm pointing. People listening, I'm pointing to behind my ear on my neck. I want to get Rocket's his number 89P13, which I think would be really cool behind my ear.
Sure.
But yeah, the movie was great. Highly recommend it. It's only the second movie in Phase 5, but right now it's already the highest rated movie in Phase 5.
Well, how hard is that?
Yeah. Ant-Man and the Wasp did not start Phase 5 off properly.
So that was the beginning of Phase 5?
Yeah. The next movie we're getting this year in November is The Marvels.
Okay.
So hopefully
I have little to no interest in that too.
Well, dude, it's being directed by Nia DaCosta, though. She did the new Candyman.
Yeah, which I loved. We both loved.
We saw it together.
Yeah.
But anyway, so everyone definitely go check it out. For those people who have seen it, don't spoil it for people. But I have been warning people. Some scenes are very hard to watch, especially if you are an animal lover. Some scenes are very hard, but it makes the emotional weight of the movie feel better, especially when how the movie ends. So, but anyway,
All right.
so Jeremy,
Cool.
what are we talking about this week, my man?
This is a very special episode for me, as it is my favorite movie at the time of this recording. We are talking about Fritz Lang's M, 1931, starring Peter Lorre and a cavalcade of others.
Yeah, yeah.
Very excited.
This has been a long time coming. I feel. I mean, I'm not gonna look back on it or have future Rain look back on it, but I feel like sprinkled throughout a lot of episodes, there's mention of M.
Yeah,
So this
yeah,
has been a long time coming.
yeah. You know, it was funny because like while you were talking about your plans to get a rocket tattoo, I was thinking, I don't have any film tattoos. You know,
Oh yeah.
um, however, a few years ago, I shut up. Sorry, it's my cat. It's Annie. She's being stupid. I thought about getting the M on my back.
Oh, that'd
Um,
be cool.
yeah, but I think eventually I want a full back piece. This will be 30 years from now when I can afford it. But um, I don't want something to be there, right? So
No.
that's sort of it's a non-starter. But I thought that'd be cool. And palm tattoos are excruciatingly painful, so I wouldn't get it on my palm. So that's
Well, and they fade so quickly, with how
yeah,
frequently we wash our hands.
I
Like
know.
it'll look like an M when you first get it, and probably for the first couple of months, but then in a
Mm,
year it'll, look like just two
yeah,
lines or
it
something.
depends how dark. It depends how deep they went on the ink. It depends on how simple it is. The more complex, the
Yeah,
more it'll fade and blob. So
yeah.
I mean, it would just be the
Well, and
letter
that's
M, but it's still
well, and that's what scares me. Hang on, everyone. It's what scares because I do eventually want to get a tattoo on my hand, like
boom hand tats. That'd be cool as shit.
maybe also later on down the line. But that's what scares me because a buddy of mine, she's got vines tattooed on her fingers that like kind of interweave, and she had to get them
Oh,
touched up because she had to wash her hands, and it faded like on the sides of her fingers, and I was like,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
if I'm going to spend upwards of $300 to get a piece right here, it's going to look brand new. Like I guess I'm just not using my hands ever again.
Now it's less. You're less likely to make it fade that fast there on the top of the hand, right? Um,
Yeah,
it, fingers. It's hard to keep the ink in and hard to keep it fresh, but tops of the hand should be fine.
yeah. Well, we'll cross that
So,
bridge
yeah, welcome
when I
back to
finally get.
the tattoo podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when I finish getting this all filled in. But anyway,
Mhm.
uh, so buddy, since this was your pick, I want to ask you,
Sure.
how did you, if you can remember, if not, I mean, I'm not going to force you to relive this, but when did you come across this movie, and what were your initial impressions?
I can tell you the day I saw it.
Okay.
I'm just kidding, but I do remember when I saw it. I don't remember the exact date, but I was in
It was a
college.
Wednesday.
It was a Wednesday. Yeah, no, I don't remember, but um, it. I was in my crime films class at Texas Tech,
Okay.
taught by Dr. Allison Whitney. So shout out to Dr. Whitney. Sorry, cat got on the counter. Things were so much easier when we were in your apartment. So yeah, so I was in my crime films class. We were.
Mhm.
I don't exactly remember like what the lesson was, but we had to watch M. We had to watch M for the next class period, and I was nervous because it was a full length foreign language film, which I don't think I'd ever seen before, or sat through, and so I was nervous because of my reading is so bad. I'm bad at reading, and so I was like, oh no, you know, um,
Uh-huh.
like this is going to be hard, and which I assume a lot of people probably think it's not, um, it's not unique to me, but I was, worried that it was going to be really hard. And to not only follow the story, but read fast enough and blah blah, all that stuff. I think I rented it on iTunes and I watched it and immediately loved it. First, it was a relief that it wasn't that hard, and I just loved the way it looked. I loved the story. I loved how dark it was. I loved that it's 1931 and we're dealing with a serial killer and we're dealing with police and crime and different syndicates of crime. You have um, your I guess you would they're not homeless. I guess some of them are, but anyway, they're the more lower class crime, and then you have high class crime, and then you have the police procedurals, and then of course all putting all together is trying to catch this one guy, this one serial killer, and it's Peter Lorre, of course, is incredible in everything he does, and it was my first introduction to Fritz Lang. So this was the first Fritz Lang movie I ever saw, and also probably the first full length foreign language film I ever saw. So
Yeah.
but that's not true, I don't think, now that I'm thinking about it, because in high school I saw Passion of the Christ, and that is all in Arabic and Aramaic. So anyway.
Yeah. Directed by an anti-Semite.
Yeah. And this movie is the opposite of that. So look at that.
Yeah. So Jeremy, would you like to let me have everyone know a little bit about the movie?
Go for it.
Yeah. But before we continue, like you said last week, if anyone is interested in seeing this, Zach, or new listeners or whatever, if you don't want to physically buy the movie, which Jeremy and I have physical versions, but if you don't want to physically buy it, like Jeremy mentioned, you could probably rent it on iTunes, or you can watch it or stream it on HBO Max, soon to be Max. And what'd you say, a week?
I think a week or 2 weeks. Yeah.
Anyway, you can stream it there. Okay, so M. Like Jeremy said, Jeremy kind of talked a little bit more about the synopsis, but everyone, this town in Berlin is being plagued by a serial killer, pretty fucked up serial killer. He is only killing children, specifically little girls, and everyone is trying to find him. The police, the crime syndicates, because he's ruining their business by killing these kids because no one wants to be on the street, or people are rioting. They are fighting amongst themselves, which is ruining their business. So now they have a stake in trying to find this guy, and everyone just wants to find him. They want to know why he's doing this, and they want to stop him. And just like we've been talking about with Fritz Lang movies, there's a lot of cat and mouse, a lot of police procedural, which is awesome. I feel like, which we'll get into, but I feel like by this point in his career, Fritz Lang had really dialed in on the police procedural part of it. Yeah, that's really about it. I mean, they eventually catch him, which we'll get to. They have an impromptu trial for him, which in my opinion is the most intense. The last 15 minutes of the movie is the most intense part of it. And we don't really know what happens next. The movie ends sort of ambiguously, which honestly is the best way on how to end a movie like this. And that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jeremy, where would you like to begin?
Well, let's begin. Let's see. What do I most have written down here? Because I took a lot of notes this time. Before we get into sort of the plot itself, I want to talk about how this is Fritz Lang's first sound film, his first talkie.
Yeah, I was just about to say we should talk about the sound.
And so we've made it, guys. We have sound now. in this series. Sorry about that, but um, we have sound, and instead of sort of like what other films were doing at the time, um, where they're using the sound in sort of a gimmicky way, or sort of a, can you believe we can have sound in films now? Let's have singing for no reason, or let's shoehorn singing into the plot somehow, and let's have lots of musical numbers, or let's do this. And instead of doing that, Fritz Lang says, I can use sound as a plot device instead,
Mm-hmm.
right? Have it be integral to the narrative and the plot, and have it be important instead of just, isn't it fun? It's there. Let's have it be important. It's there, right? Um,
Like you would say with our episode on duck soup.
yeah, well, they did musical comedies anyway, so I mean that's sort of like
Yeah.
whatever. That's what they did. Um, he's not the only one to really use sound, or in some cases the absence of sound. We may get to it eventually, but James Whale used sound in Frankenstein in a unique way by having the absence of sound be just as scary as sound. Um, so, I mean, Fritz Lang wasn't like, I like to think he was a trendsetter here, or he's like the first one to do it, but not really. He was just one, he was another one to use sound in a unique way and not just use it for fun, right?
Well,
Um,
and that's something I looked up today, um,
mhm.
which was that he, using sound as a motif,
Yeah,
with the whistling,
yeah, which
he
is
was
Fritz Lang
definitely the.
whistling, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Peter
Uh,
Lorre can't whistle, so
oh,
and so Fritz Lang had to do his whistling for him, um, which is the only
um,
nice thing he did for Peter Lorre, by the way. We'll get to that later.
oh, okay.
Um, but but yeah, so again, using sound with the whistling, um, to identify him, right? To have it be
Mm-hmm.
his theme. Now that was the first time that we're getting the sense of a character having a theme, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of unheard of at this time. Serial killer movies are sort of unheard of at this time. Police procedurals to this extent was unheard of and crazy, right? Um, and sort of, and of course, really compelling, right? As we can see in this, and of course today, police procedurals are, not only are they just the norm, but they're also very popular, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, how many episodes of Criminal Minds have you seen? I've seen like, I don't know, like 500 of them. However many episodes there are, I've seen a bunch of them. They're super interesting.
I've
Um,
only seen like three. I've never actually sat and watched Criminal
oh, you
Minds.
need to get on it. They're really good. Law and Order is the obvious example, but
Yeah.
also with music, just the use of sound and dialogue, right? Um, the voiceover narration in this film was again groundbreaking, right? No one had done that
Mm-hmm.
really. So he does it in such a genius way. So we're having those people talk on the phone, right? Describing what
Mm-hmm.
the town is doing, what Berlin is doing, what the police is doing, what they're watching the crime syndicate, and they're doing this, and they're having this phone conversation, but also what we now know is it's an exposition dump, right? But we're
Yeah.
cutting to the visual examples of what he's talking about each time, making it over voiceover narration, um, which again, no one thought to do, right? I mean, the sound is pretty
Yeah.
new still, but I mean, they're like, oh shit, we're, he's like telling us a story that's really interesting, um, instead of the camera just being on those two people talking. It seems so silly now, but it's a big deal. Um, hang on, I had that written down and now I have to click it off. Okay. Um, so that was a big deal. What else is a big
Hmm.
deal? Um,
The camera movement is another
with
one, which is
dude,
a good
that
one.
one there was like a is it 2.5 minutes of I think they're the beggars, the people who live on the street, that crime syndicate, that
Hmm.
when they're going through their hideout, that camera shot, it's like 2.5 minutes. It's incredible, you know.
It's amazing. One of my favorites was when the one of the inspectors thinks he's got something with the cigarette butts and he's spelling it out with his finger. Like, and the camera keeps pushing in, not zooming in, pushing in on
uh,
him. And it's
yeah,
just so fluid because because it's like each time that pushes in, he's like, wait. And
yeah,
it's, yeah, man, it's hit again. Like I said, with the police procedural part, I feel like this point in Fritz Lang's career, he's like, man, let's just see what we can do with the camera. Like let's
yeah.
let's make it as fluid as we can.
And what's more interesting about this film in a sort of like overall context is that it's not this giant epic that he's so known for at this time.
Hmm.
It's very small and intimate and at times claustrophobic, right? And it's,
Yeah.
not a long movie, right? It's small in scale, it's small in time, and our characters are more nuanced and a little more subdued, right? um,
Hmm.
um, Hans Beckert isn't Dr. Mabuse, right? He's not over the top, and he's not, this big immovable force. He is just as
Hmm.
small and as, I don't know, as almost as insignificant as anyone else on the street, right? He's not this big old, um, almost cartoonish sort of character and figure. Um,
Yeah.
Hans Beckert is
No,
Peter Lorre, by the way.
no, yeah, no. Well,
Says,
I knew, but yeah.
I know you know.
Now, would you say the reason that is because now I know if I can access the recesses of my memory from when we did that episode almost 4 years ago. Um, German expressionism by this point not necessarily was fading away, but films were moving more into this noir direction, right? So
Yes.
there was
So
no
this,
so there
yeah, I mean, this is sort of the and you bring up a good point that this film is the beginning of film noir. This is um, go back and listen to our film noir episode. I sort of list out the list of the checklist of what makes a film noir, but the city is a character, right?
Mhm.
Berlin is just as much a part of the story as any of our characters are, and that is a big component of film noir. Film noir takes place in a very specific place, like we talked about in Sunset Boulevard. That can only
Yeah.
happen in LA, right?
Yeah.
It can only happen in Hollywood, and it can only happen at that specific time. Also, so I mean, it's um, Sunset Boulevard can't happen in New York, right? That doesn't make any sense. Also, because the title wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
But
But
uh,
but this would explain why why Peter Lorre's character Hans isn't as animated
mhm,
as Dr. Mabuse,
right,
uh, because because if I like I said if I remember correctly, because German expressionism didn't really fade, it sort of it pivoted into film noir.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Okay. Cool.
yeah, yeah. It's and we see it a lot in this movie. Is now we're starting
Hmm.
to we're going from exaggerated, unrealistic, artificial shadows and lighting. Now we're going to very very high contrasted, stark, realistic lighting that gives you sort of a natural feel, right? So we're shining really really bright lights just in one section of this place, so we get all of these dark shadows on the other part of the screen. So that's we're starting to see a lot of that instead of what I just described. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and I was gonna say too, another good transition or not transition, a segue before we get to the really delving in and picking apart the plot is the use of light in it. I love our introduction to Hans, which is just his
yeah,
shadow.
yeah,
It's so good, so good, and we don't see him. Like I don't think we actually see his face, Peter Lorre's face, until the uh the psychiatrist is breaking down the letter, and
yes,
then I
and
think
that's
we
when
see
he's in
his
front of the
face for the
mirror.
first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
Um,
did you? I know you wanted me, well, me, Future Rain, to put up some stills. Is that one of them?
no, that is not one
No,
of
it is
them.
not.
Um, if you're friends with me on Facebook, it's my Facebook. Who uses that anymore? I do. Um, it's my whatever picture, not my profile picture. The
your
other one.
your
Um,
your I don't I don't even remember what it's called.
I don't either, but it's on my page. So, um,
Yeah.
but I'm sure you can find it if you want. Rain, if you want to put it up, you can. That's a very famous still from the movie, so that's fine.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the use of lights and shadows is just amazing.
Mhm.
I as and I'm pretty sure I said in the Noir episode. Again, I don't remember, that was 4 years ago. Um,
I know.
it makes me really want to watch The Killing with Stanley Kubrick,
Yeah,
because all the stills I've seen of that and his use of lighting, I'm sure was probably directly influenced from this.
definitely. Night of the Hunter is another one. If you want to go
Mm,
that again, dark sort of plot line way, if you want to go the sort of similar direction as M,
yeah.
and yeah, Night of the Hunter,
Uh,
man, I would recommend that one for sure. It's incredible. Robert Mitchum is horrifying in that movie. Um,
yeah.
okay, so
Okay.
let's see. I love how in the beginning of the movie,
Hmm.
again, we're using sound as a plot device. We're hearing the children sing their schoolyard song. It's sort of like an
Hmm.
eeny meeny miny mo game, but they're
Yeah.
talking about the killer that's in their city, which
Yeah.
leads you to believe it's been a problem for a while, right?
Hmm.
Um, that that it's been going on long enough to where kids aren't super scared, right? But it's more well known throughout the city that this is happening. It's been happening for a while. They've made up a song about it.
Yeah.
Um,
They've made an urban legend about it.
pretty much, yeah. Um, and it almost seems like people are still relaxing a bit because um, uh, what's her name, Elsie,
Hmm.
Elsie Beckman, right? Because
Hmm.
Elsie's mom doesn't seem like it's weird that the kids are walking home by themselves, right? Um,
Yeah.
which I mean, you should, but that's fine. Um, but in contrast with this newfound technology of sound, I love Fritz Lang is still using these silent film techniques and motifs by keeping our eye literally on the ball that she has.
Hmm.
That way, later on, when it just rolls into frame from that bush, you know that she's dead, right?
Yeah.
And of course, the balloon guy in the power line, no sound, right? Um,
Hmm.
it's using these visual cues, still keeping in with this silent film era that we're just now getting out of. Um, so I really liked that we're not he's not going all in on sound, right? He's still
Right.
using the things that he knows very very well in storytelling and combining the two to make this cohesive storytelling, um, which is
Well,
awesome.
and he does that a lot throughout the film. And I actually kind of forgot that. I forgot to mention. I was gonna made myself a mental note. I This is one of the ones I'd seen before, but I actually forgot when I was rewatching it that he does that. He cuts the sound
Mhm.
in quite a few places, and I got really concerned. Hello. Uh, but then I remembered because when the sound came back, I was like, oh, that's right. Yeah, this happens. Um,
Yeah.
and it heightens the drama because now we
Mhm.
don't know, because as we've been discussing with silent films, the absence of sound adds a lot. But then when you have a movie like this, where, well, now we have sound, but Fritz Lang is still going to take it away,
Mhm.
it makes things 10 times as worse.
Yeah, it's and you're right. You caught it without looking it up that like this isn't 100% a sound film, right? He still is like not using the soundtrack on
Mm-hmm.
some of these shots. I think it's 80-20, 80% sound, 20% silent, I think. It might be 70-30,
Okay.
um but yeah, not it's not all sound, right? There's still in sound in talkies at this time still did that. It's not unusual. If you ever watch The Jazz Singer, which go for it, Al Jolson, it's in every movie about sound or about that time in Hollywood. I'll give you several examples. Babylon, Chaplin,
Ah.
Singing in the Rain.
Mm-hmm.
The Jazz Singer is what the people go see, and they're like, "Ah, sound is amazing. Our films need sound." The Aviator is another one. They all there's a scene in there where they all go see the Jazz Singer, right? That movie
Uh-huh.
has moments that are completely silent with dialogue cards still, you know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yes, it's amazing that there's sound in this film, and of course groundbreaking at the time, but it's still a silent film at parts. 100%
Right.
silent, like again with dialogue cards. This doesn't have that, thank God. I like that he's using the silence in visual only, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I don't know if you noticed in Spies, but he was sort of there were moments when there were long stretches without dialogue cards, and
Oh yeah.
he's using his. It's almost like he knew, right? I mean, sound had come out at that time, 1928. Um, so maybe he was like, let's see how long I can go, you know, without
Yeah.
without having to fucking put dialogue on the screen because it kills the momentum of the story. Um,
Well,
that's
and maybe that's
that's just
another
me
reason
speculating.
why. Well, maybe that's another reason why I felt like the movie was a little boring because, like,
Maybe,
I don't know what they're saying.
yeah, um, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. But um, so yeah, poor Elsie Beckman is the straw that breaks the camel's back because now it's been several girls, right,
Mm-hmm.
that have been murdered, and so now, as you were saying in the synopsis, we are having everyone look for this guy because if the
Mm-hmm.
police are all over the place because they have no idea where he is and where to look, right? They're bothering the criminals that are known throughout the city that are just doing, theft, fraud, uh, you know, nothing like murder, right?
Yeah,
Um,
these
and
are good criminals.
yeah, these are the guys that ain't so bad, you know. Uh, and so if the cops are constantly prowling the streets and keep going to the bars or keep going to the hideouts and keep doing these daily check-ins with them just to make sure that none of these people are responsible, it's really killing what they're trying to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
and and I love where we're having the criminals. These are these are the more organized crime syndicate um, at that round table. And I forgot the guy's name, but he always wears gloves. I love that guy. He's sort of the leader.
The safe cracker is what they refer to him as.
So I love he always wears gloves. Character choice because he never leaves fingerprints anywhere.
Yeah.
Because as we see in this film, that is very much a modern way to catch a criminal these days. In 1931, you can still be caught with fingerprints. So if you're thinking about doing crime in the past, go further than that, because they can catch you with fingerprints in 31. So I love that they're talking about what to do, how to do it, how are we going to catch this guy? Because if we don't catch him, we can't do crime, right?
Yeah.
And they're
We're
coming up with a
and
plan. You go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, and they're running out of money too.
Right.
So
So they're coming up with their plan, and then it cuts to the police and the detectives doing the exact same thing they're doing, right? And now
yeah,
instead
and
of just because we spent a while with the crime syndicate, and then when we cut to the cops, I thought that was a cool cut, right? But
mhm.
now we're going to be with the cops, but then we switch back and forth, and
And
it's so good.
yeah, man, I love that it's almost like a don't laugh with this analogy, but almost like a ballet, because
Mhm.
one guy will raise his hand and we cut to someone else and they've got the exact same hand up,
Mhm.
or someone will get up and we're cut back to the other. I was like, that's so cool.
Right. It's again to relay this notion that this problem is so bad that these polar opposite groups of people are coming up with the same conclusions and coming up with similar ideas and having a common goal in mind. Granted, this common goal ends up being a little bit different near the very end, um,
Yes.
in execution, right? Literally, in some cases,
Yeah, I was
um,
just about to say literally.
literally, and but I just love the intercut between the two of these groups of people trying to come up with a solution to the greater problem, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and the safecracker has this sort of he's very serious and very he's very no nonsense about it, right? In
Hmm.
contrast with our detective, our lead detective, I'm gonna find his name here in just a second. At least I hope
It's
I
it
can.
was like Carl Lohman. It's Lohmann.
Okay. Yes, Carl Lohman. He's having a lot of fun uh,
Yeah.
with this, um, which is fun, right? I like that his character is sort of like, yes, this is very serious, but this is fun. This is fun for me to try to track this guy down, um, and he's going to be, the what we would later identify as this sort of offbeat, um, sort of like he's the unorthodox detective that's going to come in and save the day, right? He's not
Right.
he's not what you would think of like a hardball detective. He's sort of like, well, yeah, but like
He, he's not your
yeah,
regular old gumshoe.
no. We can see a lot of this. He's having fun, especially during the scene where he's at that bar and he's checking everyone's papers, checking everyone's IDs.
Hmm.
Uh, even though this guy's papers were in order, he goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna keep it anyway. You're gonna go ahead and go." Uh,
Yeah.
he's he's having fun with them, you know. Um, by the way, Otto Wernick Wernicke. Oh Jesus, these names. Anyway, he plays Carl Lohman. He's amazing. Um,
Yeah.
so okay, right. So we have these, and again, it's not only those two um, entities in the town. It's also the beggars and their crime. I don't want to say I don't want to say syndicate for the beggars because that sounds too sophisticated because they're beggars. I like to think of them as sort of like if you've seen John Wick, it's sort of Lawrence Fishburne's gang. You know,
Yeah, I was just about to
is
say
sort of
that.
what they are, and they're the ones that identify them later on. Their
Yeah,
their group.
yeah. It's almost like the other syndicates sort of like contract them out. Like, hey, you're going to help
Hmm.
us find this guy,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
do it do it the way y'all need to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I love that we get when they find him. I love that we get a callback to the poster because I'm sure a lot of people are like, why is it a hand with an M in
Hmm.
it? And I love that that guy takes that chalk out and is like really trying to get it on his hand.
Yeah.
Um, it's so good, dude. Like, because most posters, don't have callbacks to the movie,
Yeah. No.
or or anything like that. Maybe like shout out to Drew Struzan who makes these amazing posters, but there's not any sort of callbacks to him,
No, not
But
necessarily. Right.
yeah, but Fritz Lang was like, no, 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 don't worry. Like you're gonna see what this is talking about.
Yeah, it truly is. It's great. I love that. Again, using sound, I love the character of the blind man who sells the balloons. Because in the bar, we see him sort of be very sensitive for his ears, right? With that
Mm-hmm.
music crank thing. I wish I knew what it was called. I've seen them 1,000 times in other movies and TV shows. With usually it's with a little baboon or a monkey or whatever. But I don't
An
know what they're
organ
called. Anyway, is
grinder.
that what it's called?
I'm pretty sure. I think that's what you're
Yeah,
thinking of.
cool organ grinder. Anyway, that guy was cranking the organ grinder, and it sounds horrible at first, and the blind man's freaking out and he's covering his ears. But once it's calibrated, he goes, "Oh, okay, yeah." Um, it's sort of Fritz Lang is inferring that this guy being blind has a very good sense of his hearing, and so which becomes very important later on um,
And
with
you,
the
you,
whistling.
you know what it reminded me of a little bit?
Mhm.
And maybe you can correct it, even though I've seen the movie. It reminded me of City Lights, of the
Okay,
blind girl thinking the tramp
yeah,
is rich because she hears a fancier car go by.
yeah. She hears the
Yeah.
door shut of the car, and she thinks that it belongs to the tramp, and yeah, it's because of that misunderstanding we have this whole movie, right? Um,
Yeah. Imagine Fritz Lang sees that and like, we could use that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
instead of a guy trying to get the girl, it's a blind man trying to find a serial killer.
It just stems from him watching the whole movie. Is him just is him watching City Lights.
he he runs home from the theater and bursts through the door since this is another movie he co-wrote with his wife. He's like, "Honey, I've got our next big idea."
So I
Uh,
imagine him in his monocle just running like Charlie Bucket, you know what I mean? Like from the chocolate.
full full Tom Cruising, arm pumping, like.
Arm pumping, sure. So dumb. Oh
Uh,
man. All right.
but yeah, the whistle, which I'm gonna quiz you, Jeremy,
Sure.
with hopefully you didn't look it up, but you know what he's whistling.
I heard them say it. I watched videos in preparation for this. I read what it was called. I don't remember anymore. I didn't write it down.
In the hall of the Mountain King.
In the Hall of the Mountain
Uh,
King.
most
Okay.
most people most people have probably heard the song in some form or fashion.
Yes.
Um, uh, it's been I want to say it's I think it's a part of the Nutcracker. I could be mistaken. Um, Shut your mouth. Let me see. No, it's not. Um, it's what musical is this from?
Oh.
It's from a play called Peer Gynt.
Hmm.
It's a Norwegian play.
Hmm.
It's a romantic drama, apparently. But anyway, but most people, I'm sure you've heard it.
Most
And
people have.
to be honest, it's very haunting for a
Hmm.
human being to whistle that because it's already a haunting piece of music anyway. Um, which I think just adds to how terrifying Hans really is.
Hmm. Yeah, and we can see that in the community itself. We have that gentleman just standing outside of a building, and this girl asked him what time it was, right?
Mm.
I think that's what she asked him, right?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
we haven't even talked about how this has affected the town.
just everybody, and so yes, the crime syndicates and the police and the beggars, everyone's trying to find him, but so are the people in the town, right? But instead of coming up with a solution and coming together and be like, we need to fix this, they just all turn on each other. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
paranoia is rampant throughout the city because of this. Now, anyone who talks to a child is now a suspect, right? This poor
Yeah,
guy is just telling the girl what time it was, and he's being assaulted on the street because he spoke to her. Um,
yeah, very very 2023 of them.
Jesus. Um, Hold on. I wanted to move on to something. Um,
Well,
okay.
why are you?
So
Oh, okay, you found it.
I found it. So let's switch now from everyone who's trying to find this guy. Let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about the guy. So
Okay.
Hans Becker. Okay. Hans Becker, brilliantly played by Peter Lorre, who at this time um, in his career was mostly a comedic actor, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
I did read that this was his big break because yeah, he'd only been known for comedic roles.
it changed his life. So he didn't like it because of how popular it became and how he became synonymous with creepy serial killers. Um, but after this, I think it was 2 years after this, he worked with Alfred Hitchcock in The Man Who Knew Too Much, the original. And then he went on to do, Casablanca, Maltese Falcon, stuff with Karloff and Lugosi, and uh,
Yeah,
I mean, this movie changed his life basically. Um, and what I mean, it's a really good role to get. It's a creepy, terrible, horrible, awful person to play, but um, he's so good, and it's mostly just his face. You know,
yeah.
his face does most of it.
Now, now I was thinking about this today. I should have
Mm,
asked you this before we started recording, but I'm just going to ask you on mic.
sure.
Um, is he? I'm assuming Peter Lorre. Is he the inspiration for that Looney Tunes character that has big bug eyes and
What a good question, and yes, I think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
because he talks like
Is he
he's
the doctor who creates the big red guy
yeah,
with the
yeah. I think
sneakers? He's
yeah,
my favorite, by the way. The big red guy with the sneakers. He has a name. I just don't remember.
yeah. Hang on. Keep talking. Let me look this
Sure.
up.
So again, Peter Lorre is tremendous in this. I think it's either
His
20
name is
minutes.
Doctor Lorre.
There you go. Um, he, I think he's not seen fully in the movie until 45 minutes in. His face and
Yeah, it was meant to be a parody of Peter Lorre.
Peter Lorre, yeah. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So what I love is that we're obstructing his view, or we're obstructing his face for a long time in this movie, um, to sort of build this sort of ominous, it could be anybody sort of a deal, even though we know it's not these people they're accusing, but um, it's sort of this looming threat over Berlin. And 45 minutes in, we finally get that shot of him in the mirror and doing those faces, or he,
Mm-hmm.
manipulating his face for some reason.
Oh,
It's
and
very scary.
maybe Future Rain will put it up, but like, yeah, if anyone thinks that that's who I'm talking about,
It's Peter Lorre.
yeah. Uh, now, sorry. Now is I'm because I'm sure now that I've shown you the picture and you can hear his voice. Is that how Peter Lorre actually sounded once he learned English?
In English, yeah. That's what it
Oh,
sounds like.
okay.
He sounds a little
Just
different in
very
German.
like, just very
It's a little nasally,
kind of like
higher pitched.
nasally, breathy. Yeah.
Yes, that is how he
Anyway,
sounds.
yeah. Okay, good. Okay.
I should have
All right.
texted you. This. I was going to say this for later, but I should have texted you on the Criterion release. You can watch the English language version of the movie, and he gives
Really?
the
They
his monologue in English in the last bit. Fritz Lang didn't film it. The studios back then, German films, shot an English language version simultaneously, sort of like Dracula. They did it in Spanish. Same thing. Um, to
okay.
reach a wider audience with their movie, so they would just shoot it in a different language at the same time. Um,
And I'm assuming they just dubbed over it in English.
so a lot of it, yeah, some of it is dubbed over, but Frit, but Peter Lorre shot separately in English.
Ah,
In
okay.
the At least in the final bit, because I only watched that part in English. I didn't want to sit through the whole thing again in English because
Okay.
it would drive me crazy because the the picture quality was worse.
Now, before we move on,
Yeah,
off the whole animated Peter Lorre thing, if anyone else still doesn't know what I'm talking about, just watch the scene in Aladdin where
yeah,
Genie's giving his rules about bringing that he can't bring people back from the dead.
yeah.
Because now that I know, I'm like, oh, okay, then he was doing Peter Lorre.
Peter Lorre. Yeah, you know how kids love Peter Lorre impressions. uh,
That's exactly what he said. Hey, like, all right, so what are you gonna do for the rules, Robin? Like, hey, you know how all these 10-year-olds they just love Peter Lorre, and they're like, no.
no.
He's like, too bad, I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, I'm doing Peter Lorre, so I don't know what to tell you. Um, it's a spot on Peter Lorre impression, by the way. If you go watch Aladdin again, it's really good.
Yeah,
Um,
shout out to the original Aladdin, not the Guy Ritchie Aladdin. Watch the original.
oh yeah, of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so even
Okay, so
though I don't, I was just gonna say, even though I don't condone a child murderer,
mhm,
his monologue at
mhm.
the end, because we're
We're not
because
there
we're
yet.
still talking
Hold
about
on,
Hans. Okay, all right, all right,
we're
okay,
not
all
there
right,
yet.
all right. Okay.
Because we will get there, because we're building to you. This guy's despicable. To, oh my god, I hope they don't catch him. And it's such a
Mm-hmm.
short amount of time, but how did he do that? How did Fritz Lang do that? And here's maybe some ways he could have done that, sort of manipulated us in this way. Um, so yes, he's a child murderer, right? Little girls especially.
Right.
Um, I sent you pictures. You're going to put them up, um,
Yes.
because I love this, and I'm going to use a fancy film studies word, but I'll explain. So right here, when he sees his next victim, it's after Elsie Beckman, and
Mm-hmm.
he's window shopping, and he sees the reflection of that little girl in the shop window. Okay. It's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful piece of what not we, I'm not a film analyst, but what film study people call mise en scène. Okay, and that's literally what you see. It translates to literally what you see on screen, right? I've talked about it before, but here's a
Right.
great example. Um, when Peter Lorre, well, when Hans sees her in the window, okay, she is in the mirror that we were seeing him through. Now, what's around the mirror are knives, by the way. Um, what's
Ah.
bordering the mirror, yeah. Um, and so she then becomes something on display, right? She becomes
Mm.
something he's shopping for, right? In a way, which is why Fritz Lang is using her in reflection instead of just cutting from him to her, right? Um,
Right.
God, it's so brilliant. I love the way he's using reflections and camera angles in this scene, um,
Oh yeah,
using the
yeah.
shop
I
window.
loved it. Yeah, I loved it too. Now hearing that, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
It's so cool, right? Um, and so again, it's a beautiful piece of mise en scène. If you wanted to, an easy way to learn the term, there you go. Using um, using the camera, using blocking, using lighting to give you this image of a sort um, of what's going on psychologically with him, or what's going on, um, with his intentions, right?
Hmm.
However, here's where we start to get, this sort of like, huh, that was weird. Is that when he sees the girl, he's not excited, right? He's not
Hmm.
he's not smiling. He's not he's not looking forward to it, right? He's physically in
Yeah.
pain when he sees her, right? He's he's again trying to stop his mouth from whistling. Number one, as if it's a compulsion, right? Um,
Hmm.
he's he's gripping the side of the building. He's swaying back and forth. He's closing. He's gripping his eyes shut, because he doesn't feel like he wants to do this, but he feels so compelled to, right? Um,
Hmm.
we see this later on in the cafe, where he's losing his mind by the compulsive whistling, and him just clawing at his face, and because he feels so compelled to
Yeah.
kill, right? Which again infers what we later hear at the end of the movie, which we'll get to. Um, so that's again what you may not have realized at the time, but deep down you're like, he's not excited about it, right? He's
Right.
not seeking these girls out again, which is, he just happens upon this one, just like he happened upon Elsa Beckman. Um, he's not hunting, right? Not necessarily.
Hmm.
Um, so that's really interesting. So I really, this scene is very, very important in terms of character development, and just it's just cool the way Fritz Lang does it. Um,
Yeah, and he's almost relieved when that first girl meets up with her mom.
mhm.
But
Yeah,
then, yeah, that's when he goes to the cafe because he's like, I've got to do something. I have to do something right now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Again, brilliant. And so later, when he has that girl, it's not the same one, I don't think, but um,
No, that's a different girl.
when he has that girl with him, and he knows he's being watched, he knows he's being chased. When he gets the M on his jacket, um, he's still trying to keep her with him, even though, like, it's either a brilliant piece of acting, or I'm reading into it too much. But he's so torn between, I have to get away, but I have to take her with me, you know. Um,
Hmm.
until of course he just loses her altogether, and then just goes and saves himself. Um, he
I
gives
don't.
up on it.
I don't think you're. I don't think you're reading too much into it because, from what we know by his monologue
Mhm.
later, that would make sense. That if it's a compulsion, he's like, well, I got to keep her with me,
Yeah.
you know, uh, until he realizes. I think something internally was telling him, no, you got to run, give up
Mhm.
on the girl and go.
Yeah. And and then it becomes this chase, right? This is what Fritz Lang likes to do. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes this cat and mouse chase. Now, what I also like about this is that while he's being chased by the beggars, our sophisticated crime syndicate um, is trying to track him down another way, um, by um, by breaking into that bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they almost teach you how, which is kind of cool because it reminds you of Rafifi. Um, it's it's almost an instruction book on how to break into a bank in a very similar way, by the way. Um,
Yeah,
and
but not as careful as Rafifi. A
no,
little bit more careless.
yeah, not nearly as careful, right? Because they get caught.
Yeah. Well,
But
one guy gets caught.
well, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and again, I like, once they catch this guy. I know I'm yada yada through a lot of this, but if you've seen it, you understand, and I don't need to talk through it. I like when they catch him. They're sort of baffled that you guys didn't take anything. What are you guys, idiots? You guys were
Yeah.
so close. You guys were right there. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
Because they catch.
yeah, they catch
Yeah,
that
they
guy.
catch the one guy the one guy they left behind.
Very well dressed, all of them. He's
Yeah.
wearing a cardigan to rob a bank.
Yeah.
Um, but again, they're not robbing a bank, right? Um, they're trying to corner this guy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the sort of the realization that they found him, right? This sort of like
Mm-hmm.
um with what was his name?
Loman.
Sorry, yeah, with Loman, because Loman is just trying to figure out. He just can't make any sense of it, and new information comes in. They're like, yeah, they broke in, but they didn't take anything. And like, what do you mean they didn't take anything? And then it's like, did they break into the bank? He goes, yes, technically they broke into the building, but not the safe and not the rooms and not the whatever. He goes, well, why not? And so I like the
Yeah.
back and forth of this procedure, right? Again, it's very procedural. This sort of let's get this information and how do we get it and all that stuff.
Well,
Um,
and it's not until Franz, the guy they caught, says why they were there, and it
mhm.
and it kind of quickly turns into just this brief, like 45 seconds, a slapstick. Loman is so shocked that a cigarette drops out of his mouth, and he's like, forgets
Yeah,
that he dropped it, and he's like trying to take it out, and then he doesn't know which side he's on. He's like, wait, what did you just say?
yeah. And
And
then I love he goes in the bathroom and fixes his hair.
mhm,
He gets like himself put together,
yeah,
which is
because he's like, oh my god, we can end this right now.
right. Um,
Yeah,
and I love that a part of me loves that the cops didn't do it, right?
yeah.
The criminals caught him. Um, and all right, so here comes our favorite part, right? So they capture they capture Hans. They take him down to this basement. And by the way, just an aside, Peter Lorre never worked with Fritz Lang again because they did the scene where he gets thrown down the stairs like 12 times.
Oh
Um,
no.
so Fritz Lang, again, he's a very good filmmaker, one of my favorites. He's not the best guy in the world. He is notorious for treating his actors horribly, right? Um, he takes it a step further than Hitchcock. Hitchcock famously said, actors are like cattle, they just need to be herded, right?
Oh
Fritz Lang
god.
Fritz Lang adds manhandling to that, so you can throw them down the stairs as many times as you want. They're actors, who cares? Um, and and so he refused to give Peter Lorre a day off, even though the day he was asking off, he wasn't shooting. And Fritz said, "Who cares? You're coming in anyway." Um, it's stuff like that. So anyway, that's just an aside. So he gets dragged down to this basement, and oh my god, the reveal that everyone in the town basically is in that basement. It's the coolest
Yeah,
shot, man. And this is
yeah,
the movie with
so
cool shots, and this is the best one.
oh yeah, it reminded me a lot of the reveals in Metropolis. A
Hmm.
lot, you know.
Yeah, it's big in
Um,
scale,
yeah,
just because of the number of
um,
people that have to be in it, I guess.
yeah. But this is this is when everything is the most intense, you know. And again, we only have 15 minutes left in the movie,
Yeah.
and they hold this, impromptu trial. Um, honestly, an unjust trial. Well, not unjust. An unfair trial because.
You know what? You would think so. And it does feel that way because it is that way. However, um, something that I wrote down and something I wanted to ask you about, I think I know the answer by now because I thought about it for a few days because I watched it on Friday.
Mhm,
Is why give him a defense lawyer, right? Um,
that's
and he
true.
takes it seriously. The guy is,
Oh yeah.
like he's not messing around. He's not there just cuz, right? He's giving him a
Yeah.
defense, and it's reasonable, right? It's
Hmm.
like, yes, he's a horrible person, but he doesn't deserve to die, right? Not like this. And he needs to be taken through
Hmm.
the justice system. And here's why I think they gave him a defense. Well, why do you think they gave him a defense lawyer? And then we'll go with what I think.
I think because when I say unfair, like I don't mean that like Hans shouldn't have been put on trial. It's just unfair in the sense that they all had their minds made up. It didn't matter. Like, but I think if we're going off of that, I think it was because it was a way to ease their conscience in a way. Like, well, if we gave him a defense attorney and had someone in his defense, it doesn't matter if we kill him anyway. Someone was in his corner, you know, that
Okay.
kind of thing.
No, that's not bad. I was thinking um more just overall narrative and plot that we need the audience to be sort of like it's for us, the audience, not
Mm,
necessarily
mm-hmm.
for the characters involved, but it's for the audience to sort of also have that sort of hesitation because without him, you'd be like, fucking kill him, tear him apart, who cares? You know?
Right.
But now that he has a defense lawyer, you're like, well, hold on, you know, gosh,
Yeah.
he's got a
Let's hear
point.
him out.
He's got a
Yeah.
point, right? That yes, what he's done is unforgivable, but do you want to stoop to his level, right? And it's that sort of philosophical debate um, where it's like, yeah, we got him, but do we finish the job? However, the safecracker is like, yes, however, if we don't, he could be let go and kill all over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always that possibility. And then you're like, well, he's got a point. He might just go
Yeah.
ahead and kill again if he's given the chance to, especially since Hans himself claims to have this compulsion that he cannot help, um, which is, I think, one of the first times in film that a murderer or a bad guy is given a psychological defense for their actions, right? Giving them almost a
Mm.
psychological profile,
Yeah.
which is new um, in terms of um, in terms of storytelling in this sort of storytelling, um, because it makes you think. You're like, oh, especially people of that audience of the time are like, I don't think I've ever thought of that before. You
Yeah.
what if he really can't help it? And I'll tell you this: the first time I saw it, I thought, no, he can totally help it, and he's lying.
Yeah.
But the more times I've seen it, I'm like, we're given evidence to the contrary that he might not be able to help it, right? We
Mm-hmm.
have his sort of his hesitation with the girl at the shop window, right? The and
Mm-hmm.
the other girl right before that, where he seems relieved that um, there was an adult there with him. Um, so it gives a sort of validity to this claim that he really truly cannot help it.
Yeah, I think the only piece of evidence that we have that supports that maybe he can't is the letters that he's been writing to the press,
Mm-hmm.
which we haven't talked about. But
We have not.
I mean, well, I mean that only serves about that much plot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but because in the letter that he writes, he says that he's not done.
Right.
So that would serve the evidence of, well, no, he can help it. He's just
Mm-hmm.
lying.
Right.
You know, but you know what? I think you're right. I think Fritz really wanted the audience to question, like, well, then who's right? Like, if the defense attorney is saying that, you know, if we kill him, we're on his level, but if they're saying like, well, even if he goes through the whole, asylum and he gets out and he's cured, what's to say he won't start killing again?
Yeah.
So I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes more sense narratively.
Now I'm going to ask you this. You don't have to have an answer because I don't know if I do.
Okay.
But where do you fall? Where do you fall in this with Hans?
So, okay. I don't want this to sound like a cop out,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't have an answer because
Okay.
because both are compelling arguments.
Right.
One side of me believes the defense attorney that if we kill him, yeah, we're now stooped down to his level. You know, he needs a fair trial. He needs
Mm-hmm.
help. But then again, that part of me that's believing the defense attorney is coming from our modern time of people with a mental illness. They need help.
Mm-hmm.
The other half of me does agree with the syndicate. What if he does get cured? What's to say that one day he won't just snap?
Yeah.
People, people fall, or like if he escapes, and so it's really hard. Like I said, the optimistic in me and the my wife has really bad anxiety, and so the part of me that says he needs help kind of outweighs it, but both are valid arguments and both
Mm-hmm.
have valid points. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, I know. So I think the majority of me says fucking tear them apart, right? Get the
Yeah.
whole mob in there and just tear them to pieces. Who cares, right? Um,
Hmm.
but but you're right. A little piece of me is like, man, that defense attorney. I don't know. However,
Yeah, because yeah.
um, in a brilliant turn, an unexpected turn, Lang doesn't give you an answer, and he just has the cops take him and put him through the legal justice system, and we don't even get an answer to that either. Um,
Hmm. All we know is that Elsie's mom says
I have it written down.
someone must watch the. Oh, I'll let you say it then.
One has to keep a closer watch over our children, which will be the title of this episode. By the way, it's on Mike, so we have to do it. Um, and
Yeah.
he ends it that way instead of giving us an answer, instead of giving us a definitive end to this cat and mouse chase, to this crime story. Um, he just leaves it up to you, right? Um,
Hmm.
and I should have looked it up. Although it's just occurring to me now that I don't know the answer to this, is if Germany has a death penalty. Um, Surely they do, but I don't know.
In the 30s, I would say probably,
I would think so.
probably.
Yeah. So I mean,
Maybe,
so if
maybe.
I mean maybe
I was just gonna
right
say, I was just gonna say maybe not now, but maybe
Mhm.
back then that
Because
makes more
then
sense.
you could still, because if they did, right,
Hmm.
you could still then keep that same argument with yourself, which is, do they do they put him in jail forever? Do they put him in an institution forever? Do they kill him? Right? You
Hmm.
can still have this debate with yourself if that is the case. If not, then the answer is there for you. You only get two options. Um,
Yeah.
but it's more compelling to me if they did have the death penalty, because that keeps that option open. Um,
Right.
and then what would you do? Right? What outcome would you want? What would be the most satisfying, or what would be the most correct or right thing to do? Right? Um,
Right.
and there really is no answer, and I think that's the whole point of the ending of this is, is no option is the right option, right? Maybe, but um,
Right.
God, this movie is just so good.
It's great, man. Like I mentioned last week, when you really got me into the Criterion Collection, you begged me, be sure you get
Yeah,
M.
gotta get him.
As I was telling you off mic, um, I thought I'd had it for a couple of years because you got me into it when we first started the podcast, so
Mhm.
4 years ago. So I thought I'd had it for a while. As I found out, I've only had it for 2 years. Um, but still, I mean, it's such a phenomenal movie, you know. And when I was doing a little bit more, I was trying to do a little bit more research for the episode. One of the things I came across is that it's widely considered one of the best movies ever made, which I would agree to.
Definitely. Roger Ebert, it's on his greatest films list. Um, it's like beyond a four, right? It's a four, but it's also on this list. You know, not every
Right.
four is on this list, so so that's a big deal. It's on Letterboxd's top 250 of the narrative films of all time. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's on the IMDb one too. Um,
I,
it's a
I think
it's
it.
a
I
big
think it was. Yeah, I think it was also on the article that Scott sent me. Um, but of course, I was like, well, I already own it, and I've already seen it. So,
it's
but
God, man. There's something about this movie specifically. I haven't seen, just so you know, any of the other ones that left on this list for this season. I have not seen them, so I don't know. But I have a feeling they're not going to be as good, which is a shame. I don't want to, discourage anything. I'm sure they're still going to be really good, but nothing's going to beat this one. This is sort of like, you know, Fritz Lang pretty much invented, this style of storytelling, basically, in roundabout ways,
yeah,
or at least set
yeah,
the trend. Right? He's a trendsetter in a lot of ways, or a standard setter, and consistently in these movies that we're doing, Fritz Lang is either the first to come up with something, or one of the first, or doing something doing something pretty standard, but in a unique way that makes it completely unique to him, right? Um,
yeah, yeah.
so
I
I
would
don't
agree
know.
to
I
that.
mean, I guess I'm bragging. I guess I'm just saying I picked a good one. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
Also, I wanted to brag. I have these here. I own. This is insane. So we're wrapping up, by the way. Um,
And if you've made it this far,
yeah, I own 3 copies of this movie, guys. Um, like, this is real stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I used to own 4 copies, but I got rid of the DVD copy. So, um, Also, because they have different covers. I mean, look at this one. This one's really cool, right? And then, sorry for people who are just listening. The Criterion release is just incredible, right? It's just perfect.
Yeah.
I found this one at Waterloo Records, and it's so cool. Like, there's no reason for
Man,
me to have 3 copies, but I do.
man, shout out to Waterloo. Waterloo's the
Shout out to
best.
Waterloo, man. I know it was super. It was
That's
so dope.
that's where I'm pretty sure I told you that's where I first saw the Zatoichi
Mm-hmm.
box set right above my head. And they had it there for cheap. Well, cheaper than what it's listed on the Criterion website,
Yeah.
but it was only like $10 cheaper. And I'm like, for a used version,
Nah,
no, I'll just buy it. And then I got lucky, and this one was hella cheap. So
that's what's up.
yeah,
Shout out to Waterloo Records in
so,
Austin. Go if you have.
yeah, yeah. If anyone lives in Austin or you go visit Austin a lot, I mean, anytime I go to Austin, that's one of the places I usually hit up.
Definitely, I always do. Yeah.
I mean, we're probably going to go when we go in July, but I'll probably have to get a new record instead of a new movie
Sure.
since
Well,
Ashley Nice Challenge is still in play.
get the new national record. You know, first 2 pages of
Yeah,
Frankenstein. Go get the national record.
yeah. I mean, of what I'd listened to it so far, I love it.
It's rad. Yeah, it's really good.
Even though I really like Anthony Fantano, I don't like that he gave it a light 2. Well, his review, he literally slept through the review. So like
I've
he
seen
sat
it.
next to his yeah.
I've seen it. It's funny but unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed that he didn't like
It's
it.
not the
But
end all be all answer to people's opinions. So that's, and he knows that.
yeah.
Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed M. Let me know what you think in the comments. I know I usually don't ask this because you fucking guys don't ever comment anything ever. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, nothing. Radio silence from all of you. But I'd like to know, where do you fall on this scale of what should be done with Hans? Because there is no right answer, there is no wrong answer. I just want to know. I lean more towards the of mob justice, street justice is how I am. Reigns is a little more 50-50 inconclusive, so let me know. Zach, you can just text it to me, I guess. Anyone else, if you're listening to this, and if you have my number, text me, let me know. Let Rain know if you have his number. I'll put his number here on screen.
Well, like Eric Andre.
So you can just text him anytime you want. But yeah, so love this movie. Again, it's my favorite at the time of this recording. Favorites change, so at least mine do. So, but yeah, this one's very important to me. So I love this movie very, very much. Wayne?
Yeah. Yes, Jeremy.
What's next week?
So, next week it is my turn again. And here, let me just make sure. I'm pretty sure that movie is the next one, but yes, it is.
Can I just tell you while you're doing that? So before you say that, I want to tell you which ones I'm most excited about. I don't know why I'm compelled to do this right now, but I cannot wait to talk about Big Fish. I just want to skip to that one.
I know. I love that movie, but we still have 1, 2. Oh, don't worry. We're almost there.
We're almost there. Okay, that's fine.
We have this movie, one more, and then it's Big Fish.
Fine. Okay, that's
fine. So as we were talking about off mic, this is definitely Tim's, of the movies I picked, this is definitely his weirdest. And now I've not seen this movie all the way through from start to finish. I've seen scenes, but I've never seen it from start to finish. Next week, we are talking about Mars Attacks. I think most people will know this movie because of its Martians with their exposed brains and the Chihuahua that has its head swapped with a woman.
Yep.
That's all I remember about it. I didn't even know that Jack Nicholson was in the movie.
I don't remember that either. I remember Pierce Brosnan's in this movie. Is that right?
Yes.
I think Pierce Brosnan.
Yes, Pierce Brosnan.
Lisa
Glenn
Marie is
Close.
also in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Again, she was
Annette Bening.
okay.
And yes, Lisa Marie is in it.
Mm-hmm. Again, he
Danny
was dating
DeVito.
Lisa Marie. Okay. Again, I'm really mad about that, and I'm more mad about the Monica
Monica Bellucci.
Monica Bellucci. I'm more mad about that, I guess, but I don't know.
But yeah, man. I mean, I'm excited to watch it because I mean, Tim's a weird dude, and this is definitely, of the movies I picked, this is definitely his weirdest.
Do you know if it's based on anything? Is this like is this like something he came up with? Or do you know? I mean, if you don't know, that's fine. We can always talk about that next week. I just
it says based upon Mars Attacks by Tops on the back of my Blu-ray.
Okay.
So,
by the way,
I guess it is based on something.
Hate the phrase "based upon." You're not putting it on anything. That's what that means. It's based on, not based upon. That's a pet peeve I have.
That's what it says on the credits.
It's what it says on a lot of
based
things,
upon.
and I don't like it.
Yeah,
because that's not. I don't think that's what at least it's not what it should be.
Oh my god, it was a trading card game. That's what it's based on.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. It's Garbage Pail Kids in this. So
oh dear God in heaven.
There you go. That fills in some gaps.
Yeah. So yeah, next week, Mars Attacks.
Cool.
Well, everyone, we hoped you enjoyed M, and we will see you next week for Mars Attacks.